Today on the podcast, we're going to discuss the things that have been happening in the last 24 hours. It is not a pretty sight. Let's get into it.
You're listening to the Paul Procise Podcast.
And now Paul Procise.
Well, guys, welcome to the podcast. Welcome. You can find me on paulprocise.com. Go ahead, like, share, all that stuff. Do the things on the Facebook, and I'm enjoying just the interaction that we're getting on Facebook. I want to point out a couple things. Frankly, if you're on my social media, I don't want your negative comments. I get like criticism, and I get, all those kind of things. And occasionally we'll have some bad comments, but what I really, really don't want to have is something I post leads to somebody saying, let's point guns at somebody, let's do this kind of stuff. I've had several comments that I've had to delete. One I even had to report because it is not in line with where I want to go with, and it's not in line, frankly, of Facebook policies or any of the other social medias. One, I want to be very careful. There's this idea that social media, if you are a producer of content, as we see from a lot of people that are doing social commentary, that are all of a sudden now responsible for the people in comments. Now there's, I don't have a lot of commentary and stuff going on in the comments as of yet. I mean, we're still trying to just launch this podcast and get going. But what I want to say is I do not want to build ever a community that is nasty, that is hate-filled, that is willing to endorse violence, that isn't willing to say. Now, I understand frustration. I understand when you look at the media and you see what you go out, you see with your own eyes one thing, and then the media, the mainstream media, flips it around and says, this is the truth, when you know for a fact it isn't the truth. I get that frustration. Last night, I watched for hours the riots that were going on, and the mainstream media continuously, so hours I watched the media lie and say these are peaceful protests. When in Kenosha, even though it was a reaction to a shooting from a police officer, justified or not, hopefully we know, we see, what I saw was a guy scuffle with police, get tased, get up, walk away, and try to get in a vehicle. A man that they knew had a warrant out for his arrest, and then that man gets shot. Now, 7 or 8, depending on what report you believe, I've listened to and seen the footage. This man gets shot in the back, and we don't know exactly because the man apparently wasn't wearing a body cam, the police officer. It doesn't look good. It looks really bad. In fact, the shoot doesn't look on the surface justified. I don't know. What we don't know is if he was reaching for a gun, if the police officer saw something that we didn't see in the videos. It looks like a bad shoot, but that does not mean, as we learned with George Floyd, that we didn't know the full story because there was more cameras, there was more things, there was more footage out there that eventually came out. And then the narrative, even though I still think that the George Floyd thing was just abhorrent and we needed to denounce bad actors, and that cop clearly had no goodwill in him. It was very bad. We needed to denounce those things, but we also need to reserve ourselves to tell the truth. And what we're seeing now is the media telling lies on a regular basis. Last night I watched as things folded. I was watching stuff on live on Facebook and live on just coming through on Twitter. And then I was watching a couple aggregating channels on Twitch that had, 5, 10, 15 different live streams that they were aggregating. So I was able to kind of monitor things wherever it was, in Kenosha and Dallas and Seattle and Portland. And what I saw was, this is what I witnessed and what I saw with my own eyes. Now here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to show the footage. It is graphic. It is disturbing. And I don't want to deal with, because I'm putting this out on Facebook and YouTube, I'm not going to deal with copyright issues, and I'm not going to deal with graphic images. It is graphic. If you want to find this stuff, go out, look at Twitter. You can see some of the stuff that I talk about on my Twitter timeline at Paul Prosize, PAUPROSISE. Just find me there. You can find some of these things. But the narrative that is being pushed by the left-wing mainstream media is a lie. And here's what I saw. I witnessed a group of armed, militant type people. And I saw them from the very early on. And I actually recorded these things, and I have them. I screen captured all of this video because I said, you know what, the media is not going to tell this story properly. What I witnessed, what I saw is military style weapons, long guns, AR-15s, ARs, whatever style they were in, semi-automatic weapons, men clad in military gear, style gear, come in and defend the protesters. They claimed to be libertarian, anti-government people there to protect BLM. They said in their own voice that they are there to protect BLM, that they are on their side as long as they are against the government and as long as they are against the police officers. They were there on their side. That does not fit the narrative of what the mainstream media is saying. In fact, the media is flat out lying to you, and you guys need to see the truth. You need to go out there, discover it. Don't take my word for it. Go out there and see it for your own. That's why I'm also not going to show it to you, because I'm encouraging you to get out there and look for it. It is a lie that they are saying that these guys are far-right extremists. They were libertarian, anti-government, militant people that were on the side of BLM. And you're lying, media. Listeners, I appreciate everything that you've done so far, but what I cannot tolerate is these lies that are pushing people more and more and more against each other. It is not true that these were far right-wing whatever. They were there to be for BLM. They were there to protect property. That was one of their other things that they said. They said, as long as you were not damaging the property that we were here to protect, then we're good. We are good with you, BLM. We are with you. We are for you. But what we see is a couple agitators within the BLM movement getting mad. Now, that did not represent, I saw it with my own eyes, and let me say this, some of the BLM people were ardently arguing, be peaceful, don't break stuff, separate yourself. But what they did was the BLM protesters saw white men with guns, and instantly assumed that they were racist and there to kill them or there to whatever. And so we see at this gas station that the things come to a head. And we saw the initial kind of seemingly like one of the organizers for the BLM protests that were going on at that time, trying to actually separate and saying, guys, calm down, guys, calm down. And we see lots of independent media guys, whatever you want to call them, streamers of the conflict, saying, guys, calm down, guys, calm down. This is not who they are. They're for us. They're for us, over and over. But you see a couple agitators that didn't care. In fact, one of them, the one that ends up getting shot in the head later and sadly dies, doesn't care and says, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me, constantly egging them on, constantly. But you won't see that in the media. And I am sick of it. I'm so tired of these lies over and over. I saw it with my own eyes. I witnessed it live. I watched as a young 17-year-old kid apparently is trying to protect property. I do not endorse their tactics. In fact, I believe if it's just a car, they have insurance, and is wrong as rioting and marauding and going out there and looting and beating people with bats, as we've seen over and over from this leftist BLM movement. As much as I disagree with that, I do not believe that we need to protect the property with guns unless a life is in danger, because that we do have insurance that is being covered for these things. Now, I get it. Those businesses are small businesses owned. It's a lifetime of work a lot of times. So I understand the need to protect, and they're not necessarily even wrong for protecting it. I'm just saying that people, if you are picking up arms and you're going to defend some property, you better darn well make sure that you are doing it with good intent, without any hatred in your heart. And you're doing it to protect your loved ones. Stuff does not matter. And I'm asking you, because I know that a lot of people that are listening to me, frankly, own guns. That's okay. I own guns. I support the Second Amendment. I'm a former police officer, for Pete's sake, but I am asking you to calm yourself and think before you pull a trigger. Do not do it just because you're angry. What I saw was a young man that ended up being seemingly by himself because the rest of the group had left. And then he's there for whatever reason, whatever his intent was, he ends up shooting one guy. Calls either for help or calls. You can hear witnesses. The witnesses say he's calling 911. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. You can hear all of these people. And then all of a sudden you start hearing, he did it. He did it. And then mob mentality kicks in. The young man starts running away. And that's where, frankly, it should have ended. It should have let him surrender himself to the police department. Let the justice. Now, I get that there is a feeling of inequity between the police department and things. I get it. And I'm seeing that there are instances of inequity. I am never going to say that bad actors don't happen. Bad things don't happen. But what we do need to do is have level heads. And the media is pushing us against each other and lying and saying these things didn't happen. And these guys are just white supremacists. That's not who they were. Liars. So this young man runs down the street and you see a mob of people running after this guy. Now, who that guy was running to? He was running to the police. For whatever reason, I don't know his justification for it. He was running towards the police, maybe to give himself up or to ask for protection or whatever. I don't know. But then we see a guy come up and punch him in the back of the head. He takes a few more steps, 5 or 6, and then he stumbles, he falls, he trips, whatever. And then you see 4 or 5 people approach him. One of them jumps up to kick him in the head, and the young man with a long arm, AR-15, semi-automatic, takes aim. And multiple shots ring out. Many, many shots ring out. He shoots a guy in the arm who's most likely going to lose his arm. It's grotesque. That's one of the reasons I'm not going to show you this footage. It is grotesque. And I watched all of this live. There were some great independent reporters that were there that showed this. Go find it. If you really need to see this footage, and I encourage you not to because it will change you. Now, I've dealt with this kind of stuff, really grotesque things as a police officer. I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm just saying it is something that you have to learn how to deal with. And I do not believe that most people can go out and look at this. In fact, I encourage you not to. It is not Bones series. It is not CSI. It is something that is going to haunt you. Do better. Don't subject yourself to things that you don't need to. Take my word for it. It can scar you for life. You can have issues when you witness these things. You can have actual trauma in your life. So don't seek these things out for some morbid curiosity. Guys, the media is lying. So this young man's on the ground. He's being kicked. He goes, defends himself. And I don't care if it's justified. I don't care. He needed to remove himself, needed to put down the gun, whatever, run. But the fact of the matter is, he was being chased and now being beaten, and he feared for his life. You can see that is what happens. And he shoots, and I don't know what the intent of every single person was, but it looked as if they meant to hurt him. And he shoots, bop, 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 bop. 3 or 4 more shots, hits a guy in the arm, rips his arm apart. It's disgusting. Hits another person in the stomach. As a result of this young man's actions, 2 people have died, confirmed so far. Most likely 4 people. The reports are varying. It's very hard to get all the facts this quickly. I'm begging you guys, start putting out truthful things because the media is lying to everybody. And I'm begging you guys to put things out there that are going to be, that show light. I started this podcast because I really was tired of the media. And I was really hoping to not get into the negativity so much. And I really still want to provide you tools of things and how you can be really well educated. Like I said last podcast, we are planning on doing a very well organized discussion about abortion, because I believe that there's a lot of misinformation out there. We saw Abby Johnson last night speak at the RNC, and we want to discuss those things that she said. We want to discuss the abortion pill, the morning after pill, and then the scientific discoveries and uses of the abortion reversal pill. I want to provide you with really good information, and I'm going to make mistakes. I fully admit that. I fully go in saying, you know what? I'm not going to be perfect, but we have to tell the truth. Not our truth, not our version of the truth, the ugly truth. Last night was ugly. It was despicable. I hated seeing all of those things, but I saw them, and I'm telling you the truth now, that the media is lying to you. They were not white supremacists. They were, in their own words, libertarian for BLM. Now, you might see that on some of the other conservative type media outlets. The Daily Caller and a few others have been tracking this. The Blaze, those guys were out there. Their reporters were there. They were witnesses to what happened, and I was watching their streams and their tweets that come in live. So there's good sources out there for you to see, but I'm begging you guys to do the right thing. You need to educate your families. You need to have honest conversations and be willing to listen, because maybe we're missing something. I believe there's good people in the BLM movement. I really honestly believe that. I think that they have good intentions, but they are missing that it is a communist, anti-God, anti-family organization that has raised $1.5 billion. They're not even a nonprofit company. They are an incorporated entity. They are a company that are basically strong-arming other companies into giving them money in the name of Black Lives Matter. The founders and the main movement of the BLM movement is communistic, and we need to talk about that. And they want to destroy your family and mine. They want to tear apart what we believe to be true. They want to get us separated from the truth of God. And it's got to stop. And the media is perpetrating and pushing this agenda. They are complicit, and enough is enough. Stop listening to CNN. Stop listening to MSNBC, because they are liars. They do not tell the truth. And these mayors and these governors that are complicit in backing off, the Wisconsin mayor or governor is culpable for last night. Why? Because he was offered more troops and he denied them. He could have had up to 500 more law enforcement individuals out there on the streets to help calm those things. But what we saw, the timeline of what happened last night, is as soon as the police department backed away, and you can see this on film, they went away within 15, 20 minutes, all hell broke loose. And that's when we started seeing the big shootings that we're all seeing all over the media right now. Without the police present, without law enforcement present, bad things are going to happen right now. And I get it. I understand why people are protesting, because they feel like there is an injustice. I do not understand the rioting and the hurting people and the burning of businesses in the name of, take your pick. The actions that sparked it were terrible and need to be addressed. But the actions after the fact are wrong, they're evil, and we need to put a stop to it. And their governors that are not putting a stop to it are complicit, and they're condoning it. If you do not put a stop to it with your ability, because you have all the tools at your fingertips, all you have to do is pick up a call, type a letter, and you have the enforcement available to put it to stop. Stop the protests. Enough. We're done. We need to have discussions. We need to hold these people, these bad acting cops, accountable. We need to hold our city officials that are doing bad things wrong. Here in Denver, we have elected officials that are organizing protests, organizing riots, and lying about the police actions. Candy C. DeBacca, I'm looking at you and you're a liar. She's a Denver councilwoman, and she's a liar. She called out the police department, said that they were pointing a gun at her, and it was false. She lied about that. 100% dishonest. These are local, to me, Denver elected officials. We have Denver School District, one of their board members, going out there and organizing hate. Now, I get if you're just trying to say we need to protest. I support your right to protest. It's in the First Amendment. Protest. Go ahead. Even if I disagree with you, go ahead. Do it peacefully. This is not what's happening. You are condoning and perpetrating. You are pushing bad actions, and you are not part of the solution. You are the problem. You are the problem. And I'm done with it. I don't know. Maybe I just lost all my listeners with this today. But I just can't take it anymore. I just can't. This is not where we need to be as a society. We need to be a society, as I said in the video that a lot of you have listened to and heard, that how did we get here? That God wins in the end, and things might get really bad before they get better. I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope things stable out. But I'm looking at the election. I'm looking at things that are going on. And we have elected officials calling other elected officials enemy of the state because they disagree on policy. Enemies of the state. Nancy Pelosi, yesterday on national TV, called the president an enemy of the state. Now, I get hyperbole. I get all these things, but that is going too far. I do not like Trump. I don't. Sorry to break it to you. I've already said this a whole bunch of times. I don't like him. I didn't vote for him. But that is too far. Calling out and saying these are enemies of the state as an elected official, as a federal officer, basically, of Congress, saying these things have got to be held accountable. And you are if you keep voting these people in, you are culpable. You are condoning it. You are saying it's okay. I'm okay with these actions. And that is wrong. We've got to stop. We've got to start putting better elected officials in there, because this is not working. Is this working for you, America? Is it? Doesn't seem to be working out very well, does it? And I will agree with you that there's a lot of Republican issues as well. That's why I left the party. On a positive note, I do have other projects going on. And like I've said, we have this top 3. Go ahead and check that out. Top 3 is a great podcast. Has nothing to do with politics. Has everything to do with fun and just 3 friends that have been friends for a long time. Just sit down and discuss fun. Discuss things. And it's a great escape from all of this nonsense. I've told you, I left social media. In fact, I didn't even watch or look at media other than sports for about 5-6 years. I just tuned it all out. Buried my hands. And this is part of why. Because when I get into it, I see the truth and then I get really frustrated that I'm like, dude, what are we doing? But we can at least escape for 45 minutes to an hour and enjoy some coffee or some nasty pickles or whatever. So I encourage you to listen to that. Because I think we can do better, and we need to hold our elected officials accountable better. I just think that we're not heading in the right direction right now. And I really do think that if we continue to allow the media to spread these lies and we don't call them out over and over and over, and it has to be all of us doing it. We all have to do it. If we don't do it, then the media is going to continue to lie. The Kenosha thing was terrible. But their narrative is lying to you. Guys, my name is Paul Procise. Find me on social media. You guys have a great day. Bye.